I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves. I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, Coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said, "He sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears." He said, "Bet." That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A, Georgia State Champion, Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 6, and I'm fired up today to be joined by the head coach at Berrien County, Coach Jackson Dean. Thanks for being on with me.
I appreciate you having me.
Well, Coach, you're a young buck, but where'd you grow up and go to school and play ball?
Well, I grew up in Snellville, Georgia, went to school at South Gwinnett High School, graduated there in 2006. Then went to Valdosta State and played there from 6 to 10. So, I was fortunate enough to be a part of some really good football teams at Valdosta State and some really good teams at South Gwinnett. So that's where I kind of got my football itch, I guess.
So who was your high school coach?
So I had Coach T. McFerrin, my freshman through junior year, and he just passed away recently.
Legend.
And then, yes, legend for sure. And then Coach John Small, who's at East Coweta right now.
Yeah, he and I grew up playing against each other in Augusta.
Okay.
Yeah, I had him on a few episodes before you. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've just been bouncing around the state.
That's right. He's kind of like my second father. He hired me a couple times after I graduated, so I've been around him a bunch.
Well, that's awesome. What position did you play in high school?
I played receiver in DB, and then when I got to college, I played receiver.
Okay. Did you play any other sports in high school, or were you just a football kid?
I did. I played baseball. Baseball was probably my main sport, but football was my love. So.
Well, there you go.
I always knew. Yep, I always knew the football. I wanted to be a football coach. Pretty early on, once I started playing, so I always kind of knew this is the route I wanted to go in the direction I wanted to go. So I'm just thankful I'm able to do it.
And you were able to go to Valdosta State to play, and did y'all win a national championship when you were there?
We did in 2007. We won it. That was my redshirt freshman year. I was kind of I always tell people that we traveled 9 receivers. I was the 9th. And I tell the kids this. I was the one that they had to bring me because I knew every single person's route. And our OC at the time, he would tell me, like, he is not the best one. He is not the 9th best wideout we have. But since he knows everything, he's able to travel because we can put him in whenever we need to.
Hey, you got to make yourself expendable, man, and you can't be.
That's right. That's right.
You got to have a skill set, and that was your skill set.
That's right. And I was not afraid to sacrifice my body for a block. So those two things were able to let me play in college.
Well, who was the head coach when you were down there?
Hatcher was there. He recruited me, and then he was there my redshirt year, and then Dean took over after that.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, cool. So how was life in Val Vegas / Remerton?
Oh, man, it was a wild time. I can tell you about Valdosta. I can't tell you much about the Remerton. That's kept a little more secret. No, it was fun, man. I loved it. Going down there, I was like every other high school kid. I was like, I'm better than Division II. I should be Division I, yada yada. And then going down there, you realize, man, it's such good football, man.
So did you always know that you were going to, I mean, you always knew you were going to teach and coach. Did you go the GA route, or how did you transition into teaching and coaching?
Yeah. So when I graduated at Valdosta State, I kind of had two options. I could have gone to a Watchtower Baptist to be a GA and be the receivers coach, or I could go back to my high school and coach wideouts. And I chose to go back to high school, to my high school, coach with John Small. Also live with my parents and save some money.
There you go.
So, yeah, so that was huge at the time. And so I did that. And then the next year I went to Hillgrove High School, coached with Coach Ironside for a year. And then after that season, my college offensive coordinator, Robbie Brown, he hit me up and said, hey, I'm leaving Valdosta State. I'm going to Northwestern State in Louisiana. It's an FCS school. He was like, and I need a graduate assistant. I need a GA. I know you talked about doing the college football thing. So if you're still interested, I want you to come with me. So luckily I went that route, did that for a year. I was the graduate assistant with the wideouts, and then got promoted to tight ends coach the next year, which meant $0 more. And I still had to stay a graduate assistant. I just had my own position room. So it was pretty cool. I like the experience.
Well, that's awesome. You got to go to a different part of the country, and probably had good food and good people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great food. The food was too good for sure. You're definitely going to gain some weight going there. But it was a really neat town in Natchitoches, Louisiana. We were not too far from Shreveport and Monroe and things like that. But it was a great football town. Had a good experience. We beat Louisiana Tech when I was there, and that was a huge deal because they're FBS and all that stuff. So it was a fun time. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there in Louisiana.
So you did that for 2 years, and then what did you decide to do?
So then I went to Lowndes to be the receivers coach. Tucker Pruitt was going there to be the OC. Me and him had played college ball together, and he called me up, saying he needed a wideouts coach. So I went with him down there. I was there for the first year as the receivers coach, and then Tucker left and became the OC of Valdosta High School. And I got promoted to passing game coordinator my second year at
Lowndes. Okay. And who was y'all's head coach?
Randy McPherson. He was the head coach.
Oh yeah, another legend.
Oh yeah, and that dude, he taught me so much football. It was unbelievable. I was coming from college, thought I knew it all, and got down there and was like, I'm an inside zone, outside zone guy, which there's nothing wrong with inside zone, outside zone for those who are listening. But I thought I was going to do that for my whole life and just throw the ball every play. And I got down there, and now we are going to run power and counter down your throat because that is the Randy McPherson way.
Yeah, gap scheme's the way to go, baby. I'm all for it. Yeah, I like inside and outside zone too, but if your kids can't count, they can gap down backer for sure.
Ain't no doubt. Yeah, that's when they ask, like, well, who is that? What is your rule? That's all you need to do. What's your rule?
And if you forget, just go gap down backer, and you're probably going to be right.
Yeah, you have a 95% chance that you're going to be right if you block down.
Yeah, I'm coaching O-line now, and I've got the young kids are out there. They ask me 1,000 questions, especially at OTAs when they decide they want to ask all these questions. And they're and they're like, hey, coach, what do I do? And I'm like, baby, if it's coming to you, and they're tackles, always tackles. And I'm like, if the play's coming to you, block down. I mean, you're probably not going to be wrong. And if it's going away from you, cut the guy off, turn him out. And you're probably not going to be wrong. And if you are, I'll fix it. But quit asking. Learn the freaking plays, dude.
That's it. Yeah, that's the so he taught me a lot about that. And then I went to East Coweta after that. Coach Small got the head job there. And my wife's family, one half of her family lives there. And so he wanted me to come be the OC. And, I wanted to, have that responsibility and see if I could do it. So I went there for 5 years, which I loved it there too, which is kind of crazy. I went to going to Lowndes and East Coweta, and now to Berrien. There's 3 schools that were essentially wing T schools that I have now come in and we've transitioned out of the wing T. So that's been an interesting thing that I've been a part of for 3 schools.
So you were John's OC for 5
Yep.
years, and then you got your first head coaching job at Berrien now.
No, so then I left East Coweta and went to Cook for 3 years. Yeah, I was at Cook as the OC there for 3 years. And then I got the Berrien job this past season. So it's
who was your head coach at Cook?
Byron Slack.
Oh yeah, another good dude.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Him and John Small, they were roommates in college and good friends. And so it was very awkward when I had to tell Coach Small, like, hey, I just got an offer from your roommate in college, and I'm probably going to take it.
I'm going back to South Georgia.
That was it. Me and my wife always knew that we wanted to be in South Georgia. She's from Waycross. So I always knew I wanted to get back down here. Just the football atmosphere is so much different. It's week in, week out, good football all the time. And, people want you fired if you lose, and they love you if you win. And that's the way I like it. I love the pressure aspect of it. I think that makes it more fun to coach and be involved in. And so I'm blessed and fortunate to be down here again.
Well, how important do you think it was for you, not only playing for a legend like Coach McFerrin, but just over the years, getting yourself in positions to work with and for some really good, great high school football coaches to help you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I think as an assistant, being around all these different head coaches, you kind of soak up and take in their best qualities and kind of look at it as, hey, when I become the head guy, if I ever get a shot, I want to do this like him, or I want to do this like him, or, and that's kind of what I've tried to do. I could pick something from every guy that I work for and say, I got this from him. I think, John Small, he was the most organized person I've ever met in my life. And so I struggle with the organizational aspect, but a lot of the stuff that I do now is because of what he did to try to help myself. And then, him doing that and raising money and just being able to convince kids to be better than they are. I think those are his 3 big things that I've tried to take from him. Randy McPherson he taught me how to win, just straight up how to win and how to coach football and just how to make your kids tough. And that's the thing that I really loved about him. And he taught me just a ton about the game and how it needs to be played at this level. And if I ever have an issue or a question about football, he's the one that I usually call. Byron Slack, another one. He's so good at getting the most out of the kids, whether it be in the weight room, on the practice field, whatever it is. And I just thought that was, just something I'll always take from him. And I'll tell you, Phil Ironside, I worked for him for 1 year at Hillgrove, and I have never seen a man so smart on the field. He could just call a play, summon a play out of midair, make it up on the fly, and it'll be a touchdown. It's the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's unbelievable at it. And I strive to be like that, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially early in your career, if you get to work for a lot of different people, it's going to help, obviously broaden your horizons. It's going to open up your network, and you learn different things. And not only, like you said, you pick out soak up the greatest qualities from the guys you work for, but you also look at some things and go, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now exactly. That was good. I'm not, that ain't me. I mean, you got to be you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting now that I'm in the big chair is, as an assistant, you always sit there and you're like, man, I can't believe he's doing that, or why'd he do that? And now that I'm here, I see it and I'm like, man, now I know why he did that. Now, at the time I didn't see it, but now he probably didn't tell me why he did it, but there was a good reason for it. And there's definitely some things like that pop up that I'm like, I get it now.
So this is your first head coaching job. This is going into year 1, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you were sitting down, what did you do to sell yourself? What was your program's, culture? What was your sales pitch to why they should hire Jackson Dean as the head coach at Berrien?
Oh, that's a good question. I just, I told them that I always had looked at this job like a place that could be great, that was on the cusp of being great, and it had all the qualities to be great. It has players, it's got facilities, it's got money. I mean, that's the one thing no one wants to bring up, but it has money. But when I was going into it, I just said, I want to be. My style of coaching is more of I'm going to coach and teach. I always think that's important. I think it's not screaming and yelling has kind of gone out the window. It's necessary at times, but I think the kids nowadays are not like me and you were coach. If a coach screamed and yelled at me and I went home and told my mom and dad about it, they'd be like, well, then obviously you messed up and you need to do something different. The kids are different now. And so I think, what I kind of told them I was like, listen, I'm going to go in there and we're going to teach and learn. I said, and the two things we're going to get mad about is attitude and effort. And those are the two things that are going to be non-negotiable. And it's the two things that us coaches, like if you hear screaming and yelling, it's because of that. It's not going to be because they bust a play. It's not going to be because they took the wrong side. It's going to be attitude and effort, and those two things. And I truly believe, I think they liked hearing that. I think they liked hearing that I'm not going to berate them the whole time, that we're going to teach and learn and help them grow, not only as football players, but as young men, but the minute the attitude and effort slacks off, that's when we get after them. And we told them it's not just on the football field, it's in the classroom and out there in life too. Attitude and effort can carry you a long ways and make up for a lot of deficiencies as long as you do it the right way.
Yeah, a lot of things that you aren't told going in your first head coaching job are things that you just have to experience, that there's no way you could have been prepared for it. So is there anything in the past 6 months that just in general has occurred that you were like, yeah, nobody sat me down and told me it was going to be like this?
I think it's just the amount of time you're on the phone. It's just phone calls from everyone and everywhere. And it's 90% of the time, it's not a good phone call. It's some sort of problem.
Yeah.
Which you kind of knew that. And then, I talked to John Small about it. I was like, hey, man, you didn't tell me I was going to be dealing with all these problems. He was like, man, the best part of your day is when you hit the grass. He's like, and then because the minute you get off the grass, off that practice field, your phone's going to start blowing up, or you're actually going to check it now. He's like, so just enjoy all the moments on the grass. He's like, that's really the only time you get to be a football coach from here on out.
Oh, there ain't no doubt. So how did you approach your first spring with your first head coaching job and this first year at Berrien? How did you guys do spring?
Yeah, so we did 2 weeks straight. We tried to get as many of the track kids out as we could because we had a bunch of guys compete for state, which was great. So we did 2 weeks straight, back to back. We scrimmaged ourselves. We did a little red and gray game, divided up the teams as evenly as we could, and we did kind of a powder puff game as well before, which they hadn't done there. So we had a lot of community involvement. A lot of people showed up to it, which was great. We're going to hopefully continue to build that. But honestly, I was fortunate enough to bring in a couple of new coaches, which helped out a lot. And so a lot of it was but they're still driving from their old schools. And a lot of them are coaching other sports. So there was a lot of, they couldn't necessarily be at this practice because they're coaching another sport and doing that because obviously that was their priority, which is, they had already made a commitment to that school. So that was fine. But, I think we just said, me and our DC sat down and said, we're going to install our base stuff and then we're going to fly around, see who can learn it and really who can show us something on the field. And that's why we want to do the red and gray game. Cause there might be, if we split these guys up, maybe there might be a few that shine through that we've almost missed in these last 2 weeks. And a bunch of them did. They showed up and, when the lights were on, and that was exciting to see. So, we didn't try to overly kill them or anything, but we tried to get the most out of them. And it was more of a teaching, learning, and just seeing what they could do, really. And then we kind of adjusted our summer based on what we could do in the spring.
Yeah, and then doing the red gray game your first year, especially, I think is important because it gives you those 2 scrimmages in the fall, and I think that's going to help you more down the road than if you had scrimmage somebody else that first year. Because a lot of times,
Right.
people are like, "Oh, I want to show people what we've done," and no,
Yeah.
you might want to just wait.
Yeah. You might want to get the systems in place first before you.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but I agree with you. I think that's the route I would probably take as well. And crap, all you got to tell your coaches is that if they don't want to come down there, you'll just go eat at Ray's Mill Pond by yourself. They ain't got to come eat.
That's right.
They ain't got to come eat catfish with you.
That's right. Yeah, going back to the old Springtown, I remember our first year at East Coweta. I don't know if John Small ever admit this or not, but we were slated to scrimmage Carrollton our first year there, and we were not ready for that smoke. We went out there to warm ups, and there was it was such a whirlwind. And Small had been at South Gwinnett, my high school, for 12 years, and so we went out there for warm ups, and we were like, you know what, we've never practiced a warm up before. We had just got there, and so we looked so lost, and then luckily thunder struck and our game got rained out, and we were watching them warm up, and we were like, boys, we ain't ready for this smoke. And so we got very fortunate that game was canceled. And but yeah, that's when I learned that. I was like, yeah, we ain't gonna do that. We're not gonna play anyone yet. Like you said, we'll get our legs up under us, and then the next year we'll try to find someone. But it was good. Boys, they did a good job.
Well, and you learn too that you have to practice things like pregame.
Yes.
You have to plan for that, and you have to. I mean, I've been a lot of staffs where we actually practiced it. Like we went out and we were like, all right, we're going to go out. We're going to take everything. We're going to set it up. We're going to go through all the whatever, and then we're just going to pack it all back up and come back inside. Because that's all. You have to work on that because it's so hard to just, if you don't have some veteran guys in place that can kind of shoot from the hip and pull it off, you're right. People look out there and go, what are they doing? Or, And there's not, we think everybody in the world's watching. And there's really not that many people there for that anyway, but there's enough.
No.
Exactly. And because you're like, oh my man, what are we doing?
Yep. And that's I'll say that's probably the hardest thing right now. And it's one of the hardest. It's, you get on these staffs, and, year one's always tough because no one really knows what to do, when to do it, how and this is just talking about just clean up stuff and just getting stuff out, set up, clean up, all that stuff. But I think after after you get a few years in with a staff that's cohesive, it's kind of like everyone falls in place and understands their job and their role, and things move a lot sooner. And so like you say, there's a bunch of things now that I'm like, man, I gotta start telling some people they got to do this, but it's not their fault. They don't know either. They're not being told, but I'm just used to other people doing it and me not having to do it. And so I'm like, oh man, I gotta start verbalizing this stuff.
Yeah, I got to put it down on paper and show it to everybody every week like we do. I worked at Early County for 6 years, and that staff had been together for like 25 years. So we didn't have a preseason coaches.
Yeah,
these are your duties because they just started doing. I mean, they'd been doing it together for so long, they just knew what to do, and you were standing around like, what do y'all need me to do? And then you kind of fit in, and you found your groove and what you were supposed to be doing. But when you're the big check, you got to sit everybody down and go, all right, Lamb, this week you got laundry. All right, JoJo, this week you got locker room, and this week, you got to sit down and have a plan for that because, like you said, until you build that cohesiveness and that time together, it's just because it's got to get done.
Right.
And then you have other things, and that's what I tell assistant coaches all the time. I'm like, look, the head man's got stuff that only he can deal with. It's our job to take care of all this other stuff because when he gets off the practice field, just like Coach Small said, your phone is now you're dealing with Ray's mama, or whoever is Billy Joe Jackson's mama's ticked off because he got number 72 and his daddy wanted number 68 and he always wanted number 60. And
that's right.
We can clean up the locker room and get all that stuff straight while you get the number situation straight. Because we do not want to be dealing with Billy Ray's mama.
Exactly. Yeah, that's when yeah, that's when one of the things I have learned the last 6 months. I'm like, man, I'd much rather do laundry than have to call this person back. I talk to this person. I'd much rather go in there and push a button, flip it over to the dryer, and have to make this phone call.
So how have y'all structured summer? Are you doing 3-day, 4-day? How'd you do June?
So we did 3 days. We did Monday through Wednesday in June, and another one of my sales pitches to them is, we're single A. We share so many players. I'm trying to get more baseball kids out. We got a bunch of wrestling kids, basketball kids, track kids, and I said, listen, we're going Monday through Wednesday, and I told all the other sports, I was like, make Thursday y'all's big day. I have that Thursday for you guys. Also I like it because it gives them a longer weekend. If these kids want to go to camps, any football camps or whatever, soccer camp. We had a bunch of soccer kids too. If you want to go to these camps, man, take that whole weekend. Go do your thing. Go to these camps. So we went Monday through Wednesday in June. Now we're going 4 days a week. We actually just had a 7-on-7 with Atkinson and Turner today, which was good. And then next week we'll go to Atkinson. I think there's 10 teams in an OTA next week that we'll be a part of, so that'll be good. And then the next week it's on and popping then with acclimation, and then we'll get it fired up. And the next week put pads on and go to Charlton and see what we can do.
Yeah, we had 7-on-7 today with Macon County, and we got Hawkinsville tomorrow, and then next week we go to Putnam County, and it's a 2-day, Tuesday, Thursday, but I think we're spending the night in the gym, and we're going to treat it like a little mini overnight camp deal, so we're going to stay up there, and that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we did that. We did that at Cook. We went over to Camden and stayed overnight in the gym. It was good. I liked it. It's a lot now.
Well, when you were in high school, we used to take y'all to camp. It was the end of the summer, and you do camp, and you do 2-a-days, 3-a-days, really 3-a-days, sometimes 4-a-days, if you got a special teams practice in there, and if you counted county fair in the morning as the actual practice, and and it was providing a good experience, and we hated it as coaches, and any coach that says they actually enjoyed it, they're lying, because it was just as bad on us it's just long, and you're away from home, and it's terrible, and you're having to deal with 60, 70 teenagers at night, and that first night they're all geeked up, and then they don't have any trouble sleeping after that first night. So but it's a cool thing to do. You're right, it is fun, and it provides a good experience for the kids to do that. So y'all got OTAs in July. How does y'all school schedule work as far as when y'all start school? Are y'all early starters, or do y'all start later than most people?
We start August 8th, and so we'll scrimmage August 1st, and then we'll have kind of a bye week that next week, and then we'll play Cook the 15th. So we start the 8th.
And y'all start off with a rivalry game.
I know, and it's the school I came from, so that's just wild. And unfortunately, we got to go there. I was like, man, why can't we play them at home? But yeah, I'll go over there. I got a kind of crazy. I go back to the old team, and then the next week is Lanier, which is where David Dean's at, from old college head coach. So I got to play them back to back. Yeah,
those two rivalry games right there, because Cook, Lanier, and Berrien. I don't know who claims who, but I know that those are big, right there in the area together.
Yeah, it's turning. Us and Lanier it's turned into a pretty good rivalry over the years, and so we look forward to both those games. They're not going to be easy games by any means. Both coaching staffs are really good, and they both got players and dudes. So hopefully it'll be a good tell of the tape of where we stack up.
So what was your first priority when you came in as the head coach? Was it weight room? Was it assembling a staff? Getting the Avengers to unite? What was your first what was your first thing that you were like, all right, I got to get on my checklist, here's the things I got to make sure I get done?
Yeah, the staff was kind of already in place. I'd kind of known who I was gonna get to come with me, I was very blessed and fortunate to have that. I had some guys already I'd reached out to and said, if I get this, I know I'll have X amount of spots. So that was good. Then it was just a matter of getting them here during spring ball. But, the big thing was getting kids back out to play. I think they had ended the season with like 24 kids total on the roster. And they had started the season last year with about 60 to 70. And so it was just, trying to, go down the halls and recruit kids out of the hallways and trying to get them back out to play, which is good. I mean, we've had, all summer we've been 50 plus in the weight room every day. So that was really the biggest thing, was just getting kids to come back out and play and really fall in love with the game again.
Well, a lot of that has to do too with, being younger, being enthusiastic, and building relationships with those kids. How important do you believe that is, especially this day and age, with not only college ball but high school ball becoming so transactional?
Yeah, it's probably the most important thing is building those relationships, and being able to sit down and have normal conversations with them, and not just not make it all about ball all the time. I think that's the older school mentality, I guess. And these kids want to know that you care about them before they care what you know, that old saying. And I think it holds definitely true today. And they want to know that you have their best interest in your heart, instead of just using them to win football games. And I think once you prove to them that you do, and that you're trying to do everything you can for them, whether that be, we talk to them all the time, not everyone's going to go play college ball. Not everyone's going to do this, but, we want you to get out of this program, be a better man, be a better person. So that way, when you go into the real world, we'll help you with it, whatever you need. We're not just going to be hung up on the guys that are going to play college ball. We're going to help you out too, get a job somewhere, or get you into a school and get you the right degree, and make sure you're on the right path for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's so important that they understand that we care about them as people, and because it is a game, and yeah, our livelihoods are on the line. But I mean, ultimately, it's just a game, and like you said, some of them are going to be blessed enough to go play at the next level, but all of them, we hope, are going to go work. They're going to go have a family. Yeah. They're going to grow up and be men, grown men. So. That part of it, providing a good experience and the foundations for that's definitely something, it is an extracurricular activity. So, things that they are supposed to pick up outside of the classroom that you wouldn't otherwise pick up. So, with the recent passing of Coach McFerrin, you got any good Coach T. McFerrin stories?
Oh man, he was such a good motivator and getting the most out of his players. He was an old school guy, but he was not old school tough. And he would do things like he'd get mad at us during practice, and he'd be like, "All right," everyone knew he was mad, but he'd be like, "Everybody get on the line." He'd be like, "Get on the line," and he'd make us run a half gasser just across the field and back. And it wouldn't be timed, wouldn't be anything like that. And he'd get done and he'd be like, "Don't ever make me do that to you again. I know you don't." And we're like, "Dude, we just jogged 100 yards. We're fine." But he was more so the guy that, he was like a grandparent you didn't want to disappoint. Yeah, he was that kind of motivator. Like, he'd just look at you. He wouldn't really yell, just, "I'm disappointed in you and what you did." And you would just feel so awful. You're like, "I never want to disappoint this man again." But now there's one good one. He was, I was on the bottom of a dog pile one time. I caught a pass, got tackled, and somebody grabbed me in my area or kicked me there. Yeah, so I got up, and I was a fiery football player back in the day. And so I took my cleat, and I hope my players aren't listening to this. I took my cleat and stuck it in between his face mask and his head. I kicked him. And so I got a penalty. And the refs talked about throwing me out of the game. Well, Coach T called me off the field and grabbed my face mask and pulled me down to him, because I don't know if you ever saw Coach T. He was about 5'2".
Yeah.
And so he grabbed my face mask and he'd pull you down to his level, and that's when you really knew you messed up, if he did that. and so he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, "Jackson, what are you doing out there?" And I said, "Coach, he grabbed me in my nuts." And he goes, and he just goes ballistic on the referees, screaming, They're grabbing his nuts. They're grabbing him in the nuts. And he just loses his mind screaming, they're grabbing him in the nuts. And it was just like at the time, it was just like, oh yeah, he's defending me. But looking back, it's like I cannot believe that guy was just screaming that.
He went from mad at you to mad at the refs.
Yeah, mad at the refs.
Hey, he was taking up for his babies, man. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's right. He did.
Makes you want to play for guys like that.
That's right.
Did you play with JT Black at Valdosta State, or were y'all the same time, or was he after you? He might have been after you.
I think he was after me.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't. So many national championships at Valdosta State. It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, they all run together. Yeah.
Who was there when? Was my boy that was the quarterback at Lowndes went and played quarterback at Valdosta State.
Barrett Wilkes?
Yeah. Was he there with you?
Yeah, so he was there as he was a senior when I was a freshman.
Okay. B-Dub.
Yep.
Yeah, he used to tickle me. We were at Crisp together, and I'd sit up in the press box and help him chart plays. And we'd call a play, and we're running the Leach stuff, and Coach Pender was the head coach, and Coach Pender, Sean had played for Valdosta State and played Leach and them. So, he was a receiver too. And so I'd say, what's the play, coach? So I'm writing it down, and he'd turn around and he'd say the play, and he'd throw his hands up like, tug. And I'm like, wait a minute. Barrett Wilkes is not the quarterback. Our guy's the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't matter. This is a touchdown. Watch this. This is a touchdown. And anytime we didn't get it, he was just such a good dude. And he was had such a good personality. It was hard to believe that he was like he's just free spirit, just kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. The kids loved him. And he did a great job, but it was just funny. He'd just look over me and he'd throw his arms up. And I'm like, dude, you're not the quarterback. And he's like, don't matter. Don't matter. They can't cover it. They can't cover it.
Yeah, so, he was one of them guys, and I'll say this: a lot of them dudes that year, the older class, Valdosta State was not a place where it was kind of like the seniors didn't like the freshmen, where everyone kind of took care of each other, so it was good. I mean, there's guys like Barrett, Sean Calhoun was there at the time. Tyler Arndt, he was a senior when I was a freshman. So a bunch of big time coaches too, but they all, I mean, they looked after you and took care of you and helped you out. If you had questions about the offense or anything, they'd help you out. But it was just a good group of guys there.
Well, and having that network too helps when you get your first head coaching job, because not only the guys that you've coached with that you can call on for advice, guys that you went to college with that are now coaching and have been successful, you can call them, and because y'all are more like the same age and peers, and you can be like, hey man, let me tell you what happened today. How did you deal?
Exactly.
How did you deal with this? So that's got to help. And there's a pretty good coaching fraternity in the state, guys from Valdosta State. So that's probably good to draw on as well.
It is. It's a good group of guys.
So what are some things about high school ball that over your 15 years or so of coaching that's changed? So now that you've gotten your head coaching opportunity, what are some things that have changed about the game that you think you might have to think about now that just wasn't a thing when you were, first getting in? I mean, even though as an assistant, you don't think about a lot, just doing your job.
Right.
But as far as how the game's changed, what are some things now that you're like, oh yeah, Coach McFerrin Coach Small didn't have to deal with this that you have to deal with now?
Yeah. I think, a lot of it is technology wise has made huge leaps and bounds, obviously with Huddle and all that stuff. I think, we were talking about, the 3 days and 4 days and all that kind of stuff we used to do back in the day, how we don't do it now. Like you said, it was miserable for coaches. And I think it was just overkill back in the day. I think nowadays you can do it. You can be more efficient with your time. I'll say that. And the kid's able to go home and watch film, and you'd be able to track if they're actually watching film. That saves a lot of time because, back when I was in high school, I remember watching, we'd walk in the film room and they'd have the VHS tapes out and they'd be like, all right, we got this play marked from this game and this play marked, and it would just take forever. And nowadays you can just make a playlist in 2 minutes and send it out to your kids on Huddle and say, hey, watch this, and put notes on it and see what they did wrong. And so I just think, not so much that I think the game has been made easier for coaches in terms of that aspect and getting more out of your kids. The kids can learn more ball, I think, than back when we played, because they just have access to so much more with the internet and Hubble and all those resources. But it's also a crutch as well, because now Coach T did not have to deal with having someone set up huddle for him on Friday night and what happens when it goes down, because it's going to go down. And so that's the one thing that he did not have to deal with, and those coaches did not have to deal with. And so I think that's kind of a pain, because it does become a crutch that you lean on so much that when it goes down, it's like, I can't believe this. How did this ever happen? And you're just like, man, how did they coach, 80 years before before we had huddle? They did just fine without it.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's a win and a loss at the same time with how much technology we have. Sometimes you're just like, just get off the field and we'll just coach and play ball.
And there's a lot of now modern coaching at high school level, teaching from the tape. So, you don't do as many corrections on the field, and you don't do as many run it again. Let's get as much as we can filmed, and then we'll correct it from the tape. And I don't like it, but that's what we do now. And the kids, some of them get it, some of them don't. But I do agree with that 1,000%. The access that you can show them and over and over and over, and they can watch it on their phone, they can watch it on their iPad, they can watch it whenever they want to watch it, and tracking them and all that other stuff. So I agree with that. That's definitely awesome. So what are you thinking about year one? What did them Berrien Rebels look like going into the fall this year? And you got a tough region and first year. So what are things looking like for you guys as summer's getting on the short end of the stick?
Yeah, I think the way that we've worked, and the way the kids have shown up every day, we haven't had a whole lot of missing in the summer, which was huge. This is one of the things I was worried about. But I think there's a lot of positives on the horizon for us. I think, luckily, with the playoff structure we have now at our level, with the power rankings, I think we have a really good shot of getting into the playoffs. I think we're going to shock and surprise a bunch of people with how we play, and hopefully we're able to make some noise. Like you said, our region's very tough. I tell our kids all the time, I said, listen, the state champion has come out of our region. I mean, it's usually about once every 2 years, if not every year. I was like, so we got to be strapped up and ready to go every single week. There's not an easy game on the schedule. And so, I think, we look at that, our kind of motto this year is raise the bar, and the BAR stands for brave, accountable, and resilient. And, we're working on the bravery aspect of being like, hey, we can't be afraid to take on tough tasks. We know teams are better than us. They've had in the same system for a while. And, we can't cower away from them and watch their huddle highlight and be scared to play them. Instead, we need to be the brave ones saying, hey, I'm about to put them on my huddle, my highlight tape. And so that's what we're working on. But I really do think that we're going to shock and surprise a lot of people in the state and in this region and in this area, and hopefully just be a huge stepping stone for this program and for this town.
And that's awesome. I know you're going to do a great job. You're going to do great things there. You've learned from some of the best, and I can't wait to see how high the bar gets raised down at Berrien this year. And I do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Coach.